Ever wondered why anger secretly sabotages leaders called by God? In this eye-opening journey, we uncover the hidden war of anger that threatens your divine leadership. From Moses' frustration to Saul's bitterness, anger can derail your calling, but God offers victory. Join us to discover how to conquer anger with faith, healing, and rest, and led with the peace of Christ. Your breakthrough as a leader starts here. The hidden war of anger in those called to lead. Leadership is a sacred calling, especially for those chosen by God to guide His people. Whether you're a pastor, a ministry leader, or someone stepping into a role of influence, God has placed a mantle on you to lead with purpose. But there's a hidden war that many leaders face, a battle that can derail their calling if left unchecked, the war of anger. Anger, though often seen as a fleeting emotion, can become a destructive force in the heart of a leader, threatening their witness, relationships, and mission. If you're a leader struggling with anger, this message is for you. Let's uncover the hidden war of anger in 2 parts: how anger manifests in leaders and how to overcome it with God's strength. How anger manifests in those called to lead. The pressure of leadership breeds anger. Leadership, especially in a spiritual context, comes with immense pressure. You're called to shepherd others, make tough decisions, and often bear the weight of criticism or failure. This burden can spark anger when things don't go as planned. Moses, one of God's greatest leaders, faced this struggle. In Numbers chapter 20 verses 10 to 11, Moses, frustrated by the Israelites' constant complaints, angrily struck the rock twice instead of speaking to it as God commanded. His anger led to disobedience, costing him entry into the promised land. The pressure of leading a grumbling nation pushed Moses to a breaking point, showing how leadership stress can fuel anger. For modern leaders, this pressure might look like a church member's harsh criticism, a ministry project falling apart, or the exhaustion of balancing family and leadership duties. Anger bubbles up when expectations aren't met, and if unchecked, it can lead to outbursts or bitterness. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 26 warns, "In your anger do not sin." Anger isn't wrong, but how we handle it matters. Reflection: what pressures in your leadership role are sparking anger? How have you responded? Action step: write down one leadership pressure causing anger. Pray Ephesians chapter 4 verse 26 over it, asking God to help you manage your emotions righteously. Unresolved hurt turns to bitterness. Leaders are often on the front lines of spiritual battles, facing rejection, betrayal, or disappointment. When these hurts go unresolved, they fester into anger and bitterness. King Saul's story is a sobering example. 1 Samuel chapter 18. Saul, anointed as Israel's first king, became consumed with anger toward David due to jealousy and unresolved hurt. When the people praised David more than Saul, his hurt turned to rage, leading him to hunt David down. Saul's unchecked anger destroyed his leadership and legacy. Today's leaders might face similar wounds. Maybe a trusted team member betrayed you, or a congregation rejected your vision. If you don't bring those hurts to God, they morph into anger that poisons your heart. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 15 cautions, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble." Bitterness from unresolved hurt can sabotage your calling. Reflection: what unresolved hurt is fueling your anger? How is it affecting your leadership? Action step: identify one hurt you've held onto. Pray Hebrews chapter 12 verse 15, asking God to uproot bitterness and fill you with His grace. Pride amplifies anger. Pride is a subtle but deadly root of anger in leaders. When you're called to lead, it's easy to let pride creep in, expecting others to follow without question or assuming you're above correction. When your authority is challenged, pride fuels anger. Jonah's story illustrates this. Jonah chapter 4. After God spared Nineveh, Jonah became angry, saying, "I knew you were a gracious God, that's why I fled." Jonah chapter 4 verse 2. Jonah's pride made him angry at God's mercy, revealing a heart more concerned with his own agenda than God's will. Leaders today might feel anger when their plans are questioned or when God's direction doesn't align with their vision. Pride says, "I deserve better," but Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 warns, "Pride goes before destruction." Anger rooted in pride can lead to harsh words, broken relationships, and a fall from God's purpose. Reflection: where is pride fueling your anger as a leader? How can you humble yourself? Action step: confess one area of pride to God. Pray Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18, asking for humility to align with His will. Fatigue and burnout ignite anger. Leadership often demands long hours, emotional energy, and spiritual stamina. When you're running on empty, anger can flare up quickly. Elijah, a mighty prophet, faced this after his victory on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings chapter 19. Exhausted and afraid, he fled from Jezebel, sat under a broom tree, and angrily prayed, "I have had enough. Lord, take my life." 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 4. Fatigue made Elijah vulnerable to anger and despair, even after a great triumph. For today's leaders, burnout might look like snapping at a team member after a sleepless night or feeling rage when ministry demands overwhelm you. Fatigue lowers your emotional defenses, making anger a default response. Psalm chapter 23 verse 3 reminds us, "He restores my soul." God calls leaders to rest in Him to combat anger. Reflection: how is fatigue contributing to your anger? Are you resting in God? Action step: schedule 1 hour this week to rest in God's presence. Pray Psalm chapter 23 verse 3, asking Him to restore your soul. Overcoming the war of anger with God's strength. Surrender anger through prayer. The first step to overcoming anger is surrendering it to God through prayer. When anger rises, take it to the cross before it takes root. Jesus modeled this in His life. Even when betrayed and crucified, He prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Luke chapter 23 verse 34. Jesus' prayer in the face of injustice shows the power of surrendering anger to God. Leaders can follow this example by pausing in heated moments to pray. Philippians chapter 4 verses 6 to 7 instructs, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer, present your requests to God." Prayer invites God's peace to replace anger, guarding your heart as you lead. Reflection: how often do you pray when anger rises? What would change if you surrendered it to God? Action step: the next time you feel angry, pause and pray Philippians chapter 4 verses 6 to 7. Journal how God's peace impacts your response. Seek healing for past hurts. To defeat anger, leaders must seek healing for past hurts. Unresolved wounds keep you chained to bitterness, but God offers freedom. David's Psalms often show his journey from hurt to healing. In Psalm chapter 55 verse 22, he writes, "Cast your cares on the Lord and He will sustain you." David took his pain to God, finding healing instead of harboring anger. Modern leaders can seek healing through prayer, counseling, or godly community. Bringing your hurts to light allows God to mend your heart, breaking the cycle of anger. Isaiah chapter 61 verse 1 promises, "He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted." Reflection: what past hurt needs healing to stop your anger? Are you willing to seek God's restoration? Action step: share one hurt with a trusted friend or counselor. Pray Isaiah chapter 61 verse 1, asking God to heal your broken heart. Cultivate humility to combat pride. Overcoming anger rooted in pride requires cultivating humility. Jesus, the ultimate leader, washed His disciples' feet, showing that true leadership is rooted in service, not superiority. John chapter 13 verse 14. Humility allows you to receive correction, value others' perspectives, and align with God's will. Reducing anger. Leaders can practice humility by listening more, admitting mistakes, and putting others' needs first. James chapter 4 verse 10 says, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up." Humility disarms pride-driven anger, positioning you to lead with grace. Reflection: how can you cultivate humility in your leadership? What prideful anger needs to be surrendered? Action step: do one act of service this week, like helping a team member, Pray James chapter 4 verse 10. Asking for a humble heart. Rest in God to restore your soul. To combat anger from fatigue, leaders must prioritize rest in God. Jesus often withdrew to pray and rest, even amidst his demanding ministry. Luke chapter 5 verse 16. Rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for spiritual health. When you're rested, you're less likely to react in anger. Set boundaries, take Sabbath rests, and spend time in God's presence to recharge. Matthew chapter 11 verse 28 invites, "Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest." Resting in God restores your soul, equipping you to lead with peace. Reflection: are you prioritizing rest in your leadership? How can you make space for God's restoration? Action step: take a Sabbath rest this week. Pray Matthew chapter 11 verse 28, asking Jesus to give you his rest. A modern example: from anger to peace. Meet Lisa, a ministry leader who struggled with anger. Criticism from her team and exhaustion from overwork led to frequent outbursts, straining relationships. One day, Lisa read Colossians chapter 3 verse 15. "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts." She began praying through her anger, sought counseling for past hurts, and prioritized rest. Over time, her anger faded, and her leadership flourished, inspiring her team. Lisa's story shows that God can transform a leader's heart. The path to victory. Anger may wage a hidden war in leaders, but God offers victory. Moses, Saul, Jonah, and Elijah all faced anger, but God's grace met them in their struggles. As a leader, you're not defined by your anger, you're defined by God's calling. Surrender your emotions to Him. Seek healing, cultivate humility, and rest in His presence. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 to 6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and He will make your paths straight." Rise, leader, and lead with the peace of Christ.